A new exhibit titled Liberty in Philadelphia seeks to tell a more inclusive story of the American Revolution, introducing visitors to people critical to building the nation, but whose names they've likely never heard. John Yang visited as part of our Arts and Culture series, Canvas.
At first glance, this painting at the Museum of the American Revolution in Philadelphia looks like a typical depiction of the time. But take a closer look. It's a little-known moment in U.S. history. The Rhode Island Regiment, which had two companies of soldiers who were Native American or of African descent, marching past Independence Hall.
This is just an incredible scene that, when I laid eyes on it for the first time, just really helped to center the contributions of people of African descent.
Michael Idris is the museum's African American Interpretive Fellow.
This group is primarily African American. They are led by a white commanding officer. And in the middle of this is this young man who is looking at this scene. His name is James Forten, that these men were as brave of men as ever fought.
Forten's words, "brave men as ever fought," give this painting its name. It was commissioned by the museum as the centerpiece of a special exhibit called Liberty, Don Troiani's paintings of the Revolutionary War. Forten is an unheralded Revolutionary War figure, a grandson of enslaved people who was born free. He fought in the war as a teenager and later became a wealthy businessman and leading abolitionist.
We deserve life, liberty, and happiness.
A play about his life opens on Veterans Day, part of the museum's efforts to showcase the diversity of American history.
There are approximately 2.5 million people in British North America on the eve of the American Revolution, and they're not all John Adams, right?
Adrian Whaley is the museum's Director of Education and Community Engagement.
If we are not looking at a story of the American Revolution that is inclusive of all of those people, we're doing poor history, number one, but number two, we're not providing people with the opportunity to understand how they themselves and communities like theirs might have been dealing with the challenges and the complications of this crazy, chaotic, hopeful, beautiful, challenging time.
We had hoped that we could sort of be an American Revolution 3.0 museum, a place that focuses more on asking questions.
Scott Stevenson is president and CEO of the museum, which opened in 2017.
Washington's army at Yorktown in 1781 may have been as much as 25% soldiers of color. We want to teach people to be historians rather than sort of be passively walking through a museum, just looking at the artifacts and a traditional kind of telling. We really wanted it to be interrogative experience. When our kids come through, they have a character card. A museum that's about inquiry, that asks questions, that's the best kind of learning, I think, that we can possibly do for our rising generations.
The museum's core exhibit includes many little-noted stories. The fiercely debated decision by the Oneida Nation of Native Americans to support the revolution. Enslaved women like Phyllis Wheatley, the first African American and only second woman in North America to publish a book of poetry. And enslaved people of African descent who fought for the British in exchange for their freedom. That's illustrated in this tableau called "Sometimes Freedom Wore a Red Coat." It depicts a woman overhearing a young enslaved man telling a friend he was running away to join the Redcoats. By design, all the figures are the likenesses of people now living.
One of the reasons that we do that is to emphasize the fact that these are real, lifelike, like they've got the breath and the blood of real people in them, right? When you look at a figure like this that's actually been life cast, right, and you start to be able to make connections to the people and the stories of the past.
When you talked about being life cast, this is you, this is your skin, this is your face.
Literally me. This is my skin, this is my face. One of the first things that I was asked to do at the museum was to lend my likeness to one of the tableau figures.
In a Philadelphia
There are also flesh and blood interpreters in costumes playing the roles of historical figures. The museum's black interpreters portray both enslaved and free people. Interpreter Kalela Williams.
You know, other black folks will look at me and say, you know, how does it feel to portray a slave? And I generally don't, but of course I would. That's a role that I would like to portray. To me, there's beauty in portraying who was there.
Currently, Williams portrays Helena Harris, a Philadelphia schoolteacher, a rare profession for a black woman in the 1790s.
We have a very narrow idea of where black folks played a role in the history of the United States. I want people to come away with the understanding that black history is U.S. history, indigenous history is U.S. history, is world history, is all of our history. Everyone's history is part of who we collectively are.
Michael Idris, the interpretive fellow, portrays a Philadelphia baker based on Cyrus Bustle, a formerly enslaved man who owned a successful bakery.
I want to tell stories that meet people of African descent at bedrock, at inception. I want people to understand that the stories of people of African descent are centered there as well, among others that are part of this revolutionary story.
Idris says it also serves to draw a direct line from the 18th century to today's re-examination of racial justice.
Does that affect you, this bridging the centuries and what's going on now and what was going on then?
Pinning back history is really important. It's a way of revealing that there has always been tension. This is an experiment that is ongoing. The museum speaks to that. It's a revolution that is ongoing in so many respects.
I think that we have this opportunity to tell diverse stories at a moment when so many members of the public are really, really hungry for those diverse stories.
That resonates with many visitors, like current Alabama schoolteacher Shay Deason.
It's neat to see someone that looks like you, to know that, hey, you do care about my history, you do see it, we were there too.
And retired teacher Gary Stringfellow of California.
That's the part that puts the tears in my eyes, because we're in the room where it happened. I'll borrow from Hamilton. But you're also seeing everybody's point of view.
Points of view that haven't always been included in history books. The exhibit, Liberty, Don Troiani's Paintings of the Revolutionary War, runs through September 2022. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm John Yang in Philadelphia.
The history that we all need to learn.